turn the lights on for the Tyler Bright and Early podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Bright, PBJ Productions' official flagship podcast for all things college football centered. Great to be back here, and talking about college football, a little bit of update of what I've been doing. I've been moving into my new apartment. I got a new studio in the works right now, a lot going on in the world, and I'm really excited to show you guys. It's going to be a great work, but it's going to take some progress. It's going to take some time, but once it's all done, I'll be excited to show you. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, we're going to jump right back into it, go into the Big 12 predictions. We did half the teams in the last episode. We're going to finish off the half here today, starting off with the Kansas Jayhawks. The Kansas Jayhawks win total is set at 7.5 wins. And what kind of Kansas team are we going to get here today? Are we going to get a team that is going to ride the highs and kind of fight for Lance Leipold like they did a couple years back when they had a really good squad and then their quarterback got hurt? If you go all the way back to their 2024 season, they went 5-7 last year. But 2 years ago, they were ranked in 2023. So what team are we going to get? Let's take a look at their schedule. So go to 2025, and they start off with Fresno State, then Wagner at Missouri, West Virginia, Cincinnati at UCF, at Texas Tech, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, at Arizona, at Iowa State, and Utah. And I'm going to take the under because, I would like this number if it was a little bit better at 6.5 rather than 7.5. I think 8-4 is a little bit of a stretch. And I do like Lance Leipold. I do think he's a great program builder and the perfect coach for what they're trying to do. But I don't know. I feel like they'll improve on last season. Maybe they can go 7-5. I can see that happening, or 6-6. If you look at it's a good first two games. You should get the win there. Although Fresno State is not a gimme game. At Missouri, you're not winning that. West Virginia, you could win. Cincinnati, you could win. But then you go on the road to UCF and Texas Tech. That's going to be tough. Kansas State, you're not winning that. Oklahoma State, who knows? You do have Oklahoma State at home. And it's good to see that they're actually playing these games at home this year. That the problem with them last year is it was really hard for them because they didn't have a home state. They didn't have a home stadium. They were renovating the stadium. So it was kind of hard. It was hard for them to kind of get that home advantage when you're playing all the way in Kansas City, either playing at Arrowhead or the MLS stadium there. But nonetheless, you got to do what you got to do. I'm taking the under on Kansas. Next up, we got Kansas State. Their win total is at 8.5. And Kansas State under Chris Kleiman, always a coach who knows what he's doing. He's always a successful coach going back to his time at North Dakota State, and even here at Kansas State, getting a couple Big 12 appearances. And I think they're going to be a pretty good team. I think they're a top 3 team in the Big 12. And they went 9-4 last season, and going back all the way to 2023, or excuse me, was it 2022? Yeah, 2022 when they won the Big 12, when they won the Big 12 title against TCU, and that TCU team went to the national championship. So Kansas State has really been a successful program since Bill Schneider came there. Before that, they were not a successful program. They were one of the worst programs in all of college football. But they've really turned it around here in the later half of the 20th and 21st century. But yeah, I'm taking the over. Let's take a look at the schedule for this Wildcat team. So the Wildcats start off. Oh yeah, that's the game that starts out in Ireland against Iowa State. Then they host North Dakota, Army at Arizona, UCF at Baylor, TCU at Kansas, Texas Tech at Oklahoma State, at Utah, and Colorado. Yeah, I'm gonna take the over. I think they're gonna go over. I think they're a 9 or 10 win team. I really like what this team can do here. But the first game is going to be telling against Iowa State. I mentioned it in the last episode. The first game in Ireland. Get your Guinness ready because it's going to be a good matchup, and I'm going to be tuned in. I'm going to be locked in for this game. But that's what I got on Kansas State. Next up, who's next up on our list? Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State's win total is set at 5.5. Mike Gundy has been around for a while. He's in his 21st year as the head coach, but he's lost a little bit of his luster, I feel like. Although we've seen this happen before where Mike Gundy isn't having these great seasons, kind of sitting at 6-5, or 6-6. Although last season they went 3-9, which is really uncharacteristic for someone of Gundy's caliber. has a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, Doug Meacham and Todd Grantham. I'm curious to see how Todd Grantham will do because he kind of floundered out when he was at Florida, and even before that when he was at Georgia. So 5.5. I'm gonna have to look at their schedule before I make a decision on this. So easy gimme there right off the bat with UT Martin, but then the exact opposite the next week at Oregon, Tulsa, Baylor, at Arizona, Houston, Cincinnati, at Texas Tech, at Kansas, Kansas State, at UCF, and Iowa State. I do think they're going to regroup a little bit this year. They're not winning 3. They're winning more than 3 games this year. I can tell you that. But because you'll get a win against UT Martin, you should get a win against Tulsa. I feel like because there's so much parity in the Big 12, and I said this in the last episode, that there's gonna be some upsets here and there, and even in these rivalry games, and I'll touch on more on that in a little bit once we get to other stuff going around in college football. But rivalry games are super important, and it doesn't matter how bad you are, you can be successful in those games because they're rivalry games. But we got to make a decision here. 5.5. You know what? I'm gonna take the over. I don't know if that mathematically checks out, but we're not doing that. We're just going it off the whim. I think they could go 6-6. I think they have a low ceiling, but a decently high floor. Like I think the lowest they would do is 4-8, which is under the total, mind you. But I think like 4-8 and 6-6, anywhere in between that range, I think is a good spot for the Cowboys. Next up, TCU. Their win total is set at 6.5. Gone are the days where they were in the national championship game after beating Michigan and then facing off against Georgia and getting smacked. They are coming off a 2024 season in which they were the New Mexico Bowl champions. Wow. Shock. Oh, riveting. The New Mexican Bowl champions. And then a 9-4 overall total in the not in the conference, overall total. They were 6-3 in the Big 12. Sonny Dykes in his 3rd year. Is he on the hot seat? I don't think so, because I think solely based off that 1 year, I can't imagine. We'll see how he does after the end of this season, but their schedule starts off at North Carolina, Abilene Christian, SMU, at Arizona State, Colorado, at Kansas State, Baylor, at West Virginia, Iowa State, at BYU, at Houston, and Cincinnati. What was their win total? 6.5? I'm going to take the over. I don't think you're beating North Carolina right off the bat, but you'll beat Abilene Christian. You're losing to SMU, at Arizona State. Actually, we're going to recheck that. Hold on. Colorado, at Kansas State. I'm going to go back on that. I'm going to take the under. You know, the later half of their schedule doesn't seem as hard, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough in these games. And yeah, I think they could. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if they'd go and take the over and upset a few teams. But based on who they have, North Carolina, Arizona State, Colorado, and Kansas State, and what Colorado team are we going to get? I said it in the last episode. Who knows? Probably a middle between their first season and last season. But there's a lot of talent losing there. But we already talked about them. And yeah, I just don't know about TCU, man. Just don't know. But yeah, I'm going to take the under. Taking the under. Next up is Texas Tech at 8.5. Now, that seems high. 8.5 seems pretty high, especially in 2024. They did go 8-5 last season in the Big 12. I remember they were there for a decent amount. They had a good 4-game win streak in 2024, but they did upset Iowa State. But let's see what their schedule is looking like in 2025. Pulling up the schedules. They start off against Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, who's probably the worst team in college football this year, mind you. But sorry, Golden Flashes. Oregon State, at Utah, at Houston, Kansas, at Arizona State, Oklahoma State, at Kansas State, BYU, UCF, and at West Virginia. And 8.5, that just seems high. So they're expecting to win a nine game total, but their schedule is pretty easy. You go on the road to Arizona State, and at Kansas State, I just don't think you're winning that one. BYU is going to be a tough game, but they do have BYU at home. Their toughest games, and then they have UCF at home. I think they're gonna. We got to make a decision here. I do like Joey McGuire as the coach. He's in his 4th season. Was a very successful high school coach, and has really kind of made a strong transition here to the college game. So he knows a lot of these coaches, especially Texas is such a rich area with all these recruits, and it's you can argue that it's the best talent pool out of all the players in all of high school. I'm gonna take the under. I think 8-4 because I can see them getting got somewhere. I can see them having a trap game, someone who we don't expect upsetting them. Maybe UCF gets a win over them. I don't know. It's such a crapshoot in the Big 12. It's such a crapshoot. You never know what could happen because there's so much parity. Anyway, moving on. Utah, 7.5 wins, or 7.5 win total, I should say, for the Utes. And let's take a look at the Utes' schedule. You know, Kyle Winningham, he's in his 21st year. 21st year as the head coach of the Utah Utes, which is that's a really long time. And it surprises me at times, but he's been there because he's been there ever since Urban Meyer left. Because he was I believe he was the defensive coordinator under Urban Meyer when they went to the Fiesta Bowl and beat Pitt against that Larry Fitzgerald team. And they had Alex Smith on their side. And then Dan Mullen was the offensive coordinator. Anyway, getting sidetracked. This is a Utah team that, you know, they went 5-7 last year, which is a little bit different from where they were. They were always kind of battling for Pac-12 championships, kind of being right there at the top of the conference. But now they're in the Big 12 where they're not having as much success. Let's take a look at their schedule. Almost right off the 2024 schedule. We need 2025. There we go. At UCLA, Cal Poly, at Wyoming, Texas Tech, at West Virginia, Arizona State, at BYU, Colorado, Cincinnati, at Baylor, Kansas State, and at Kansas. So their win total is set, as we said, at 7.5. That's a big jump to go from 5 wins to 8 wins. I'm taking the under. I'm taking the under because, you know, I see them more likely to be 7-5 than be 8-4. There's a couple. It doesn't seem that hard when you're looking at it right off the bat, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Kansas State, you have them at home. You have a lot of easy games at home, but the road games on the road, which you don't have a ton of them. I mean, you could definitely win at West Virginia. But yeah, I feel like I got to take the under here because I just don't see this team going 8-4. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I think bowl game for sure. I think they'll definitely win 6 games, but it's just a tall tale to ask them to go 8-4 after you just went 5-7, especially since I believe they have a new quarterback. Is Cam Rising, I believe, is finally gone. I feel like he's been in college football for a decade, but gotta love it. New eligibility rules. Okay, so we skipped over UCF. I'm not sure how that happened, but UCF is up next. UCF, a lot around that program. You know, Scott Frost coming back into the UCF fold. Is he going to have as much success as he did in the first iteration? Probably not. But I do think Scott Frost is a good coach. Now, you can say what you want. He had a terrible tenure at Nebraska. A terrible tenure at Nebraska. People say best 3-9 team ever. That doesn't do anything for me. Best 3-9 team. Oh, there's a lot to cheer about that. 3-9. It was so dumb. But to play devil's advocate, they had some tough one-score loss games that it was just immaculate in the ways that they were losing. Anyway, this is about UCF, not Nebraska, but Scott Frost, he's back. It's a great fit for what Scott Frost does offensively, his scheme-wise, his philosophy, and just his coaching nature. It's more fit for someplace like Orlando, Florida, than it is in Lincoln, Nebraska. Let's take a look at the schedule, even though he was a player. Jacksonville State, North Carolina A&T, North Carolina at Kansas State, Kansas at Cincinnati, West Virginia at Baylor, Houston at Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, and at BYU. Completely forgot what their win total was. 6.5. I'm taking the over. I can see them going 7-5, especially because you'll get the win at Jacksonville State, North Carolina A&T, You'll have a tough game against Bill Belichick in North Carolina. At Kansas State, that's going to be a tough one as well. I think you can beat Kansas. You'll beat Cincinnati. You'll beat West Virginia. At Baylor, that's a toss-up. Houston, you should beat Houston, but I won't give you that as a gimme. And then Texas Tech, and then on the road at Texas Tech, I think you could beat Oklahoma State, and then you'll have a tough one against BYU. It's going to be close. It's going to be a close call, but I'm taking the over. I am taking the over. And West Virginia, they're set at 5.5 wins. Rich Rodriguez, he's in his first year as the head coach. And I think it's great that Rich Rod is back. You know, he did pretty decent at Jacksonville State. Had a pretty good team. I got to see them when they came up to Louisville. And a really fast offense. He hasn't changed a lot. Pretty much the exact same from when he was in the first iteration at West Virginia and then his time at Arizona. But I do think it's going to be an adjustment. It is going to be an adjustment. I do like Rich Rod. He's a great personality, and I love the offense that he runs, being the spread option. We'll kind of see if he's going to take that approach here at West Virginia. Let's take a look at the schedule. They start off Robert Morris at Ohio, Pittsburgh at Kansas, Utah at BYU, at UCF, TCU at Houston, Colorado at Arizona State, and Texas Tech. And 5.5, I'm going to take the under. Hate to say it. I think they're a 5-7 team, though. I think they're going to be just on the edge, but they're not going to be able to do it in year one. Robert Morris will get the win. At Ohio, he'll get the win. Pitt, who knows what Pitt team we're going to get, but I don't know. Kansas, I especially since it's at Kansas, I think that's going to be a tough one. Utah, tough as well. At BYU, you're going to lose that, I think. At UCF, probably you'll lose that. TCU, it's a tough schedule, especially I need to see what this team is going to look like under Rich Rod. What's this team going to look like? And then I think I'll have a better understanding of what this team will look like next year in 2026, which I know isn't quite fair, but I think it's fair to assume a lot of coaches, when they come back, and I didn't say this about the Scott Frost, but this counts for him too. A lot of coaches, when they come back for their second time, they don't have as much success in the second tenure than they did in the first tenure. There's been a few exceptions here and there, but they usually don't have that much success in comparison. But yeah, there we go. That's the entire Big 12. We'll do a recap in a few weeks on all the win totals, and I'll have a chart of all the picks that I made here today, but that's what I got on the Big 12 here today. Now, kind of a sneak peek of what next week's predictions. We're going to be doing the Big 10, and some really insightful stuff coming out of the Big 10 Conference, specifically from Fox Sports. And speaking of Fox Sports, they just signed this new deal with Barstool Sports. They're going to have some of their personalities be on the show. Dave Portnoy going to be a mainstay on their Big Noon college football show. And it's really interesting to kind of see how their growth is. I would love, it would be great to emulate their kind of growth, being kind of a social media kind of following. Speaking of social media, make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. You can listen to us on Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and just follow us on social media so you can follow all things Tyler bright and early. But back to what I was talking about, Barstool's kind of seeing their growth. You can really tell that Big Noon Kickoff is really emulating what College Game Day is. I mean, really personality for personality. Dave Portnoy, he's the Pat McAfee. Matt Leinart, he's the Kirk Herbstreit. Rob Stone is the host, and Reese Davis is the host. Nick Saban, the coach. Urban Meyer, the coach. Desmond Howard, the player, the former player. And Mark Ingram, the former player. It's really comparison to comparison. Now, me personally, I tend to watch more of College Game Day just because that's more of the teams that I'm following. You know, obviously Louisville. Louisville doesn't play on Fox really ever. I can't even tell you the last time they were on Fox. Maybe like 2019. But the Big Ten is on Fox. So I do tune in every now and then, especially in the big Ohio State and Michigan game. Usually I tune in for that one. But yeah, and especially it's with these networks too, it's all about who's going to follow who and where your allegiances are, what your coverage is of each conference. Of course, Fox having their deals with the Big Ten, obviously got some good conversations on First Things First over there on Fox Sports. You know, some really interesting things to come for these Big Ten teams. How's Michigan going to do after riding the highs of beating Ohio State and Alabama? Are they going to take that moving forward? More on that next week when I talk about Michigan. I also like Oregon and how they're kind of channeling the motivation of other teams, what hypes them up to use that to their own advantage, kind of channeling that and transferring that. I think that's really smart, and I never really thought about that before. And we'll talk about that a little bit more next week as well. And Kurt Cignetti, is he a one-hit wonder? Was it a fluke last year? And, he's got a lot of new players on that Indiana team. It's going to be tough, but I do like Kurt Cignetti. He wins. He knows how to win, and all he does is win. Win, 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 no matter what. But yeah, moving on to our next segment, going outside of college football a little bit, I'm going to talk on the UFL. 4 teams relocating, and I believe it's all of the USFL teams, if I'm correct. And it's a little bit shocking because one of those teams was Michigan, and I'm a former Michigander, right? And it's tough. The teams are, so it's the Michigan Panthers, it's Michigan, Houston, Birmingham, and Memphis, all to be relocated for the 2026 season, according to sources. And it just really surprises me that those are the 4 teams, especially Michigan, because Michigan had, I believe, outside of St. Louis, one of the highest attendances in the entire league, kind of leading the league because they had like 16,000 fans, which is a lot. It's spring football. And I think the UFL is still trying to figure out what its identity is and what it's marketing towards and what's their kind of target market for what they're looking for. Because spring football, it's clear that it's not enough. It's not a bad product. It's not as bad as what it was when it was the USFL and the XFL separately and whatever that Alliance of American Football was. It is decent football, but that's the problem also. It's not great football. It's just okay football. It's minor league football. But it doesn't have the pull and the tradition and history that minor league baseball has. It's still, they're trying to find their niche, and it's tough. But the other interesting thing about this is the UFL, one of the locations that they're thinking about relocating to is Louisville, the kind of Louisville, Lexington area. Other locations including Orlando and Columbus, Ohio, just to name a few. And I don't know. I think it would be great. I think Louisville would definitely support a UFL team. I don't think an NFL team's coming to Louisville. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. One, they have to build another stadium because, although L&N Stadium is a nice stadium, it's not an NFL stadium. It's just not. It's a college stadium. But they have to build a new one, and I don't know where you're going to put it. But UFL, that's perfect. UFL, I think Louisville would support it. I think even if it's in Lexington, I don't know Lexington as well, and there's not as much people, but I think they would support it too. So I don't know. It kind of seems like they're trying to find what their identity is. They kind of branded it the first year as the merger between the USFL and the XFL coming together. And now it's just kind of weird that you're relocating an entire conference, especially since a couple months ago we thought there might be expansion in the UFL. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case here today. So we'll kind of stay tuned on that. I'll keep an eye on that. We still got a long way, especially since NFL, and we got the fall season of college football coming up, so it's not really a big thing coming up here today. Okay, so last but not least, and I know I talked about holidays in the last episode, but we're going to push that back. I know I asked for some ideas and stuff, but it was just kind of unfitting. I feel like that's more of a holiday kind of idea, so we can kind of revisit that kind of bracket. What's the best holiday movies coming up moving forward? So I'm not clickbaiting, but a little bit of tease. We're gonna push that. We're gonna put that on hold. But I got a new interesting topic for you guys. So I'm gonna do 100 meter. We're gonna have a 100 meter yard dash, or no, that made no sense. 100 meter dash, and each lane you need to pick a sport for one player in each sport to run in the 100 meter dash. So you have one lane for football, and you can't have any duplicates either. You have one lane has a football player, one lane has a baseball player, one lane has a soccer player, and so on and so on and so forth. So we're going to do this now. First, for football, I'm going to go. There's a lot of options you can go with for football. You can go John Ross route. You can go the You can go Tyreek Hill. You can even go Deion Sanders. You can just go Chris Johnson. All the people who did fast in the 40-yard dash. I'm gonna go with Tyreek Hill, and you can't back out this time, Tyreek. You have to run the Tyler Brighton early 100-meter dash. Tyreek Hill, I'm picking you as the football representative. Why? Because of his track record when he ran in his college days, running a 9.98, which is really impressive, especially as someone in college. Imagine what he would be like now, kind of in his prime. As a runner, I think Tyreek's gotten even faster than what he was back then in those days. So that's my take. I'm picking Tyreek for football. And next for baseball, I think I got to go Ricky Henderson. He has the most stolen bases in the history of the MLB. So if you can put on the Jets on the base paths, you can put on the Jets in the 100-meter dash, and maybe there wasn't a recorded track of how he would run in a 100 meters, but I got to pick him. I'm picking him. I don't care. Sorry, Deion. I'm not picking you. For soccer, we can go with Henry from Arsenal, who's a legend there and who's arguably one of the fastest soccer players of all time. But I'm going to go Kylian Mbappe. He's also one of the fastest soccer players on the pitch. I'm going to take Kylian Mbappe. And then it gets a little bit tricky from here. I'm not going to lie. It gets a little bit tricky from here because you have these sports where they're actually showing off their speed a lot more. But, what better way to pick a runner in the 100-meter dash than someone in their sport who doesn't run? I'm going Dustin Johnson, the golfer. Picking him. He's running the 100-meter dash. Say what you want. You got a golfer in the 100-meter dash, Bright. What are you doing? I'm picking it. It's my show. I'm picking him. So that's 4. And then WWE. We never did an NBA player, but I'm gonna go with Derrick Rose before his injury. We're gonna go Derrick Rose before his injury. We're gonna pick him to run on the 100-meter dash. And then following that, we're going to go with Connor McDavid. Now, you can't put on the skates. But if he's fast on the ice, then obviously he's got to be fast in the lanes. He's got to be fast on the track, dusting people, showing off this speed. We're going with Connor McDavid. Say what you want. WWE. Do we do Brock Lesnar? I know we can script it. Brock Lesnar's fast. He can run on the 100-meter dash. We're going Brock Lesnar. And then next up, who else could we do? Oh, there's some options that we can go. We got some options. I gotta think. We gotta get some more representation. You know what? On tennis, I'm gonna go with Venus Williams. Get some representation there. I know she's going up against guys, but, I think she's the best tennis player of all time, regardless of male or female. I'm going with Venus Williams. So say what you want, but I'm taking her. And then I think we have one more that we have to pick. I think we're at 7 right now. We're at 7 in the 100-meter dash. Play the Jeopardy music. Got to think. We're thinking hard. You know what? For the last one, and this is all jokes and giggles, we're going to go with the dude who's the bowling guy. Whatever you are, I am. We're taking him. Yes, I don't know his name, but we're rolling with him. And that's a 100-meter dash. We got some blazing speed. And we got a lot of different levels. We got football players, we got bowlers, we got golfers, we got basketball players. We got the entire picture. Let me know who's going to win in the race. I'm curious to see. We'll take a poll, find out. We're chilling here. But that's going to do it for today's episode of the Tyler Bright and Early podcast. PBJ Productions' official flagship podcast for all things college football centered.